Welcome to Overnight Wisdom, a show where we sit with change makers, artists, business leaders, and thinkers. Each conversation is an invitation to slow down, to go deeper, and unearth the quiet insights that shape who we are. If you're seeking honest reflections, unexpected wisdom, and a deeper understanding of what it takes to not merely survive, but to thrive, you're in the right place. Today's episode takes an unexpected turn. My guest didn't show up, but so what? This space is built for the unfiltered, the imperfect, the precious middle ground where real growth happens. I'm Chisom, and I wanted to share what it's like to build something from scratch, week after week, edit after edit, idea after idea, all without safety nets or guarantees. I talk about how courage costs more than we expect, why the middle ground isn't failure but sacred soil for character, and why we must give ourselves grace to stay unfinished yet excellent, even when no one's watching. If you're climbing quietly right now, in your art, your business, your change making, or your next big thing, this one's for you. Let's dive in. So, today I was meant to speak with a guest, and unfortunately, they did not show up. So, if you ask me the perks of podcasting, it's in the unpredictability of how it would go. I mean, of course, I hope they are fine because I have not heard from them and they're a bit more reliable. So I'm hoping everything is fine. And I'm sure we'll figure it out and set up another time. I thought since I'm here, I might as well just do a little bit of reflections about what I'm learning and maybe what are some of the challenges. I think one a clear challenge that comes up for me is you to put out a 1 hour podcast. It normally takes me currently about a few hours to edit it, just to ensure that it flows smoothly, that filler words that people use, and I use filler words too, so things like some people use more than others, so then there's a lot of work in trying to make it cohesive, not wanting to make it too rigid like a robot speaking, but at the same time, for the pleasure of listening, you want to make it somewhat pleasant for people. Podcasting is time consuming. This is not even like a side gig. This is just a passion project. And I'm putting in quite a lot of time. And my husband is also helping me with some of the editing work. I'm not sure why I signed up for like a weekly podcast, but hey, I am a jump in the middle of things and learn how to swim kind of person. So let's see how that shakes out throughout this experience. I'm incredibly grateful for the people I've had the opportunity to speak with. So far, I've of course recorded a lot more shows than I have published, and my guests are fascinating, and they have strong opinions, and they have this moral compass that even where we're different, it's something I can reflect on their views and go, oh my gosh, there's something I can learn from that. Like, what is this here to teach me? And it's really interesting to be at the beginning phases of making something new. I have set up a number of companies that are still running to this day. So I know what it takes to build something from the ground up. But I guess maybe the difference is that whenever I'm building, I don't need somebody else's presence as a core part to do the work that I need to do, because I know when I build it, people will come, at least so far, in terms of like the communities or concepts or full-blown companies that I have built. But of course, podcasting so far in my context requires that there's somebody else on the other side who I'm talking to. And so there's a lot of dependence on that. So that's interesting. But I'm quite fascinated by the process, and I want to see where I am in 6 months, to be honest. I want to see what has changed. So I'm saying this to myself as, okay, here's where you're at right now, where you're very, 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 very slowly growing. And you're getting more yeses than nos and a lot of no responses. And let's see where I am in 6 months, and then let's see where I am in a year and a year and a half, in 2 years. I'm still trying to figure out, of course, do I want to have seasons or do I kind of want it to be evergreen? But yeah, let's see where I get. I'm thinking about what is very present for me right now. And what is present is the cost of courage, because everyone I've spoken to so far, there is an aspect of courage in how they move in the world. And I think that oftentimes courage is romanticized. You know, we clap when people stand up, we repost their bravery, we quote their defiance. But the truth is that courage is incredibly expensive. And it does not always look like heroism. Sometimes it looks like losing. Sometimes it looks like walking alone, being misunderstood by the very people you're fighting for. I think what I'm reflecting on is that courage is not always this loud voice, and it's not always defiant. We often confuse courage with charisma or visibility, but I think that there is an emotional tax that comes with showing up, especially when the odds are high. I'm also thinking about some real costs of courage in today's world, and especially within the geopolitical context that we currently live in. You know, I'm thinking about financial costs. I'm thinking about relational costs, you know, in terms of like allies, family members, friends turning away. I'm thinking about psychological costs, that fear that you carry before you have to act in courage. I'm thinking about rejection, about surveillance when you show up with courage in life. I think about real costs attached to people who have taken unpopular stands, not just in politics, but in art, in activism, in journalism, people who refuse to stay in their lane, so to say. And I think there's a real cost there. But then I'm also reflecting on, why is courage worth it? You know, I think that conviction is not really the absence of fear. It is the decision to move anyway. So when we're able to act from clarity, even loss in some sense becomes meaningful. And at least for me, that is how I experience what courage is. I think courage is being able to move with clarity of purpose. So being purpose driven in spite of mockery, people making fun of you, or people not even understanding. I think that courage doesn't always guarantee success. And I think that's something that, as people who want to live courageously, we need to grapple with. But it does guarantee that we will not abandon ourselves and our values and our morals, you know. And if you're listening to this and maybe you're at a crossroads, maybe it's time to choose what kind of person you want to be, you know, just know this, that real courage might cost you something, but losing yourself costs significantly more. Another thing I've been thinking about lately is this idea of starting something new from scratch, because I'm in the throes of it and I've built a lot of different things, and now I'm building this again. This podcast is just a tiny iteration of what my vision is for overnight wisdom and the bigger thing that comes after it. But it feels all very new. You know, I have to build credibility from the ground up, you know, and I'm not relying on credibility I have in my other work where I have more visibility. I'm literally starting from scratch, and I'm doing the thing I am very uncomfortable with. Funny story. I think last year someone was talking about like Instagram and TikTok and X and all of this. And I was like, no, I would never get on those, because at the time I didn't have a need to be on X and TikTok. I mean, I've always been on Instagram, but I've had a private profile. And now, because of this podcast, I need to do the things that I said I would never do, because I need to find a lot of my potential guests on X. They are on Instagram, on TikTok. Not many of them outside of the corporate space. are on LinkedIn, and a lot of them don't have their email easily accessible. So I find myself doing all those things that I thought I'd never do. And I also find myself learning new skills. I never thought I'd have to learn how to edit a podcast. In my organization, when we do this, we have people on the team who work on editing. It's nothing I have to do ever. But now with running my own podcast, I find myself in the throes of the learning. And I've been really thinking a lot about like what it feels like to be in the middle. Having started a lot of companies that are successful, I do not feel like a total newbie in building this. I know it takes time. I know it requires a lot of consistency, and I know that I will get there. But I've been thinking a lot around this middle ground of not having arrived yet as a very sacred place. And I'm really grateful for this ongoing reminder. I've been reflecting a lot and been clarifying for myself the importance of staying the course, especially now that I'm very deep in the building process. Like I get excited by ideas. I wake up at night, I scribble them down. And these are ideas that I have that will materialize in 2 years and in 3 years. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I think that we love the beginning because it's shiny, it's exciting, it's full of a lot of hope. We romanticize the finish because that's where we get the reward. That's where we get the applause. But what about this middle ground, the quiet grind, the fog, the stretch between, the vision and the fulfillment? I'm thinking about the fact that this middle ground is where a majority of us live. And today I do want to speak to the middle. I want to speak to this place. I want to speak to the builders. I want to speak to the creatives, the leaders who are still becoming, because the middle is not a mistake. The middle is sacred. We're often conditioned to believe we'll feel whole when we arrive, but the finish line is always moving. And as we develop our ideas and as we grow them, we see that they become even more expansive than we initially envisioned. Um, I'm reflecting on the obsession that we have with outcomes and how this obsession can rob us of the meaning found in the process. I think that if we only value completion, we miss the wisdom of becoming. I'm thinking a lot around what this middle place really is. I think the middle is where character forms, where you test your values, your tenacity in real time, your resilience. I'm reflecting on the people I see who are building, who are writing, who are teaching before the spotlight. They're making mistakes in broad daylight. They don't get to hide. And in some sense, that is also holding them accountable to continue to improve and to be the better version of whatever they can be. I think that the middle is where we learn to trust the work, even when the metrics don't validate it yet. And one of the things that I've come to terms with even before I started this process, but even in my work and my engagement, was that I had to detach myself from the external validation. Everything I'm doing has a core social and broader meaning for me. My bread and butter is in, I need to do this so I don't feel strangled by it. And sure, it's nice to get that validation and it's nice to get the likes, but I know what I'm also doing is meaningful. I know I'm building something for my daughter and my son. I know that I hope that, these conversations I'm having and this knowledge and wisdom I'm receiving from everybody is going to be beneficial for them someday in the far, 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 far future when I'm old and gray, when they need to say, okay, what did mommy say? How it's just something that they can also reconnect back to me and also to the continent that I hope they come to know and love as much as I do. I think that the middle is honestly where integrity is tested. And even in my work, in areas and in spaces where accomplished. This is what I think. It's where loneliness can show up. It's where that sense of isolation can show up. And it's also where root grows the deepest. This middle is when you know and how you know what stuff you're made of. Something else I'm reflecting on, especially being in this middle area of you're not starting from scratch, but you're not quite where you need to be. I am thinking a lot about permission, giving myself permission to be in the process, even for where I see that I feel behind. The other day, I found myself thinking, oh my gosh, I should have started this like 3 or 4 years ago, because this idea has been present with me for decades. And I thought, okay, now it's not the time. I have so much to do. I have other things to take care of. And rightfully so, I had other things to build that was more presence for me. Now, though, I have to remind myself that you start when you can and you start where you are. And there is no benefit in me reflecting on, oh my gosh, I should have done this 5 years ago or 4 years ago or last year. I'm doing it now. And now is what matters. I'm doing it now, and I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to be dedicated to creating it at least the best way I can now. I'm sure in 6 months it'd be much better than what it is now. But hey, right now I'm giving it my absolute best. So for creatives or people who are building anything and they feel behind, give yourself grace and give yourself the permission to be in the process. You're here now. Focus on the now and where you are going to go, not what you could have done in the past. I'm also thinking about, founders who are waiting for funding, artists whose work have not been recognized, those in transition at one point or the other. Give yourself grace, give yourself the permission to remain in the process and trust the process. I really want to drive home, like one of the things I've had to learn for myself is that I am not late. I am not lost. I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm starting where I need to start. And I need to give myself grace and also a whole lot of credit for showing up anyway. One of the things I also reflect on is the delay in growing, the delay in arriving at something. Maybe we needed to become this current version of who we are to do what we're doing now in the best way possible. I love reframing. Reframing saves my life every single day. So it's how I navigate any doubts, any challenges that I face. Is I'm able to say, what is this here to teach me? And what can I learn from this? Or what is this keeping me away from these people that I shouldn't be around, from this room that I shouldn't have a table in. So that's something I reflect on as well. Oftentimes when we put in a lot of work into creating something and it doesn't get the attention that we hope it would get, just know that silence is not rejection. There is space being made for something next to come. I guess to close, one of the things I've been taking away with me is the blessing for the middle. I think being able to reframe what it means to me, what this process, there's this thing that this pain must mean something to me. I reframe the pain, like whatever I'm going through now, this work, this relentlessness, this like being in the middle that feels like a void, that feels very lonely. I reflect on the fact that there is blessing in this middle, and this middle will mean something to me in 6 months and in a year and in 2 years and in 5 years. So I do want to say that if you're out there and you're feeling you're in the middle, know that you're not forgotten. Know that you're not invisible. You're building something the fast track cannot produce. I hope you give yourself the grace to be unfinished, to be excellent, even when unseen, to keep building with integrity, because the middle is not the place you get stuck. It's the place you get shaped. I guess that's it for me. Sending you love, because I'm also in the process. All right. Have a great day. Thank you for spending time with us on Overnight Wisdom. If this conversation moved you, inspired you, or made you pause, please like, leave a comment, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're feeling generous, a rating or review goes a long way in helping others find us too. Until next time, stay curious, stay tender, and may the wisdom you need find you exactly when you're ready.